Have you ever wondered if you're truly healing? If all those books, therapies, and personal work are bearing fruit? Today, I want to talk about something profound that changed my life, and that I'm sure will resonate with you too. Welcome back to this space where we explore the mysteries of the human psyche together. My name is your name, and today we're going to dive into the teachings of one of the most brilliant psychologists of all time, Carl Jung. Jung, that tireless explorer of the collective unconscious, left us an immense legacy about understanding our inner world. And within that vast universe, there's a particularly transformative concept, the inner child. That vulnerable aspect of our psyche that stores our earliest experiences, traumas, and joys. Many of us have embarked on the journey of healing our wounded inner child, that child who perhaps wasn't seen, heard, or loved as they deserved. That child who had to adapt to survive in a world that didn't always understand their needs. And you may have been working on this healing for some time. But how do you know if you're making progress? How can you be sure that your inner child is truly healing? Today I'll share 5 revealing signs that, according to Jung's teachings, indicate that this healing process is occurring. And these aren't small changes. They're profound transformations that, once they begin, completely alter your perception of the world and yourself. Before I dive into these signs, I want to remind you of something essential. This process isn't linear. As Jung taught us, the path toward individuation, toward becoming complete and integrated beings, is full of advances and setbacks. There are luminous days and others where shadows seem to dominate everything. This is natural and part of the process. What's important is that you keep moving forward, that you keep choosing yourself, that you keep listening to that inner child who has waited so long for your attention. The first sign that your inner child is healing is that you begin to choose yourself without guilt. Jung constantly emphasized the importance of this seemingly simple but deeply revolutionary act. When our inner child is wounded, we tend to put ourselves last. We live to please others, to avoid discomfort, to be good according to others' expectations. But something magical happens when we begin to heal. That guilt for prioritizing ourselves begins to fade away. You no longer feel that overwhelming weight when you decide not to attend an event that would drain your energy. You don't torment yourself for setting a clear boundary with someone who used to take advantage of you. You begin to understand from the depths of your being that taking care of yourself isn't selfishness, but the fundamental basis from which you can truly love and care for others. Jung explained that this transformation occurs because we begin to integrate our shadow, those parts of ourselves that we've denied or repressed. In many cases, our ability to say no, to establish healthy boundaries, has been relegated to the shadow due to early conditioning. By reclaiming this part of ourselves, we become more complete, more authentic. Have you found yourself saying no more easily lately? Have you noticed that you no longer feel that tightness in your chest when you decide to prioritize your well-being? This isn't coincidence. It's your inner child healing, telling you that it's okay to take up space, that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. The second revealing sign is that your relationships begin to transform. This is perhaps one of the most visible and sometimes disconcerting changes. When our inner child is wounded, we tend to recreate dysfunctional patterns in our relationships. We unconsciously seek situations that reaffirm our deepest wounds. But when that child begins to heal, something extraordinary happens. You no longer resonate with the same people or dynamics. It's as if you suddenly removed glasses that were distorting your perception. You begin to see clearly behaviors that you previously tolerated or even sought out, and you realize they no longer serve you. Jung called this phenomenon projection. We project unintegrated aspects of ourselves onto others. When we heal and integrate these parts, the projections dissolve, and we see people as they truly are, not as representations of our internal conflicts. Have you noticed that some friendships that were once central to your life now seem distant or even incompatible? Or that certain family dynamics that you took for granted now feel uncomfortable or unhealthy? You're not imagining things. This is a powerful sign that your inner child is healing, that you're no longer willing to recreate patterns that perpetuate your pain. And it's not just about the relationships that drift away, but also about the new connections that begin to enter your life. People who truly see you, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your authenticity. This is the external reflection of your internal transformation. The third sign that your inner child is healing is that you begin to reconnect with your intuition and creativity. Jung considered intuition one of the fundamental psychological functions, a form of perception that goes beyond the rational or sensory. However, when our inner child is wounded, this connection is often blocked. Early experiences of invalidation, of not being heard, or of having to adapt to rigid expectations disconnect us from that intuitive wisdom. We begin to doubt our perceptions, to distrust our instincts, to constantly seek external validation before making decisions. But as we heal, that inner voice begins to become clearer, more reliable. You start to notice that you know things without knowing exactly how you know them. You make decisions that others might question, but that feel right deep in your being. And, surprisingly, these decisions guided by your intuition often lead you to much better places than your purely rational choices of the past. Jung also spoke extensively about creativity as a channel for the collective unconscious, that reservoir of symbols, archetypes, and primordial images that we share as a species. When our inner child heals, creative blocks begin to dissolve. Ideas that once seemed unattainable flow naturally. You find yourself exploring forms of expression that you may have abandoned in childhood. Have you noticed that lately you have more confidence in your hunches? Have you surprised yourself by returning to creative hobbies that you had set aside years ago? Or perhaps exploring new forms of expression that you had never allowed yourself before? This is your psyche integrating. It's your inner child reclaiming vital aspects that were suppressed in your development. The fourth sign, and a particularly profound one, is that you begin to experience significant synchronicities in your life. This is a quintessentially Jungian concept. Jung defined synchronicities as meaningful coincidences that cannot be explained by simple causality. They are events that seem to be connected not by a cause-effect relationship, but by their meaning. When our inner child is wounded, we live disconnected not only from ourselves, but also from this natural flow of synchronicities. We're so trapped in our neurotic patterns, in our defenses, that we cannot perceive these subtle but powerful signals. As we heal, it's as if the universe begins to conspire in our favor. You meet precisely the person you needed to know, exactly when you needed them. A book falls into your hands with exactly the information you were looking for. You dream about something important, and the next day you receive a call related to that very same topic. Jung saw these synchronicities not as mere coincidences, but as manifestations of what he called the unus mundus, the unitary reality that underlies our separate perceptions of the physical and the psychic. In other words, when we heal, we align ourselves with a deeper flow of existence. Have you recently experienced events that seem too meaningful to be mere coincidences? Do you feel that somehow things are mysteriously falling into place in your life? This isn't your imagination. It's a tangible sign that your inner child is healing and that you're entering into a more harmonious relationship, not only with yourself, but with the very fabric of reality. The fifth and final sign that your inner child is healing is perhaps the most subtle, but also the most profound. You begin to reconcile with your shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, isn't simply the negative aspects of our personality. It's everything we've repressed, denied, or disconnected from our consciousness. When our inner child is wounded, the shadow can be overwhelming. We project these unintegrated aspects onto others. We see them out there, instead of recognizing them as parts of ourselves. This creates a constant state of conflict, both internal and external. But when we begin to heal, something extraordinary happens. We start to make peace with these rejected parts. You no longer need to be perfectly good or positive all the time. You recognize your darker aspects, not to act destructively from them, but to integrate them consciously. Jung believed that this process of shadow integration was essential for true individuation, for becoming complete human beings. And it's a process that never completely ends. There will always be aspects of ourselves to discover and integrate. Have you noticed that you're more compassionate with yourself when you make mistakes? That you can recognize impulses or thoughts that would have horrified you before without judging yourself so harshly? That you can see your weaknesses not as catastrophic flaws, but as natural parts of being human? These are clear signs that your inner child is healing and that you're on the path towards psychic integration. These 5 signs don't appear in isolation. They intertwine, reinforce each other, creating an ascending spiral of healing and growth. And it's important to remember that this process doesn't have a defined endpoint. Jung saw individuation as a lifelong path, a continuous journey toward greater integration and authenticity. Now, perhaps you're thinking, this sounds wonderful, but how can I accelerate this process? How can I help my inner child heal more quickly? It's a natural question, especially in our world oriented toward immediate results. But Jung's teachings invite us to another approach. Healing cannot be forced. In fact, our attempts to quickly fix our wounds often come precisely from that wounded child desperately seeking relief. Instead of looking for shortcuts, Jung invited us to be present with our process, to trust in the inherent wisdom of the psyche to guide us toward integration. This doesn't mean passivity. There are practices that can support this natural healing process. Therapy with a professional who understands Jungian psychology can be immensely valuable. Also, dream work, as Jung considered dreams direct messages from the unconscious. Artistic expression, mindful meditation, dialogue with different parts of yourself. All these are powerful tools, but perhaps most important is cultivating an attitude of compassionate curiosity toward your inner world. Observing without judging, listening without trying to control, trusting that your psyche, like any living system, naturally tends toward healing when given the appropriate space and support. And as you advance on this path, always remember Jung's words, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Your wounded inner child is an important part of your story, but doesn't determine your future. With each act of love toward yourself, with each healthy boundary you establish, with each aspect of yourself that you reintegrate into consciousness, you're writing a new chapter. This process isn't just about healing old wounds. It's about discovering who you really are beneath the layers of conditioning, adaptation, and protection you've accumulated. It's about reclaiming your power and living from your authentic center. And when you do, when you truly begin to heal that inner child and integrate all the fragmented parts of your being, you don't just transform your own life. As Jung firmly believed, you also contribute to collective healing. Each individual who does this inner work changes the energetic field of all humanity. Isn't that something powerful? To think that your personal healing journey isn't just for you, but an act of service to the entire world. That by choosing yourself, by honoring your inner child, you're creating waves of transformation that extend far beyond what you can see. Before concluding, I want to extend an invitation. Take a moment to connect with that inner child who lives within you. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and visualize the child that you were. How old are they? What do they look like? What emotions are they expressing? Don't try to change anything. Just observe with love and curiosity. Now, from your adult self, offer that child what they most needed back then. Maybe it's protection, validation, freedom to express themselves, or simply being seen and heard without judgment. Allow yourself to feel the emotion that arises when making this connection. This simple act of recognition is already in itself a powerful step on the path of healing. If you found value in what I've shared today, I invite you to do 3 things. First, like this video, so it can reach more people who are also on this healing path. Second, share it with someone who you think might benefit from hearing these signs of healing. And third, tell me in the comments which of these 5 signs resonated most deeply with you. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, do it now and turn on the notification bell. We're building a community of people committed to their personal growth, to understanding the depths of the human psyche from a Jungian perspective, and I'd love for you to be part of it. Remember, the journey toward individuation, toward becoming complete and integrated beings, is the most important work we will ever do. As Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Thank you for being here, for dedicating this time to your personal growth. Your inner child appreciates it, and the entire world benefits from your commitment to healing. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring together the mysteries of the human mind and the path toward a more conscious and fulfilling life. Until next time,